Greetings and a warm welcome. This is the 10 o'clock news from the EV Cafe, brought to you this week by My Energy, renewable charging and energy management for your home. And I am John Curtis. Today, I'm joined by Sarah. There is no Paul, he's filming. There's no Sam, he's not well but might show up. And there's no Johnny. Anyway, moving on, grab a cuppa and plug in for the latest in clean transport and sustainability news. We'll be talking about 2035 and Germany doing a cheeky pushback, efficient fleets, Kirkwall, who can tell me where that is, high-speed induction charging, fact or fiction, home EV tariffs. Is 800 different tariffs a bit confusing for EV drivers? You tell me. Now, tell us who you are, where you're from in the chat box, because we like to know who in the house. Darren and Vona, Michael Barton, bless his little heart. Now then, here's one. Ike Glusky, I think, but I'm not sure. Varun Gandhi, Mike Fisher, Ben Nelms, Chris Griffin, Leah Wright, Tiramakia, Michael Anderson, Claire Leclerc, Martin Hale from Quello. Greetings to you all. Bless you for showing up on this rather grotty Friday morning. Any road up. Sarah, Woman of the Year, are you well?
Yeah, what's the vibe? It's sunny and beautiful with blue skies in the Cotswolds. You should move down here. Oh, wah. Always late. Look at that.
I'm late. I'm late for a very important date. No time to say hello, goodbye. I'm late. Hello, Sam.
Sorry. Always a bit tight on a Friday morning, I'm afraid.
Just the way we like it. A group of... Anyway, let's start, shall we? A group of EU countries, led by Germany, is seeking to overturn a ban on the sale of new petrol and diesel cars by 2035. The EU has delayed a landmark vote on the phase-out of petrol and diesel cars, largely due to intervention from Germany's coalition government. Supporters of carbon-neutral synthetic fuels, or efuels, coalition members, the Free Democrats, FDP, want new internal combustion engine vehicles running on these to be exempt from the proposed bans. Poland, Italy, the Czech Republic and Bulgaria have also voiced opposition to the ban, while Austrian Chancellor Karl Nehammer welcomed FDP's stance, saying he would also oppose banning ICE vehicles. This is an absolute disaster. I mean, we could see there were cracks forming, but the writing surely isn't on the wall. Sarah, got a view?
Yeah, I love this news because I don't read your script, so this is genuine shock. And actually, I thought this was going to get sneaked through, but from the little I do know about synthetic fuels, they're incredibly inefficient and still carry with them the same polluting properties as diesel and petrol, but just a little bit better. This can't happen. This is such a backward step, and if they start, everyone else will start, especially with sort of China catching up with their advancements in automotive as well. So this worries me a lot.
And presumably the fact that it's Germany, a German manufacturer who is heavily dependent on creating internal combustion engine vehicles. I smell something. Sam, are you a conspiracy theorist?
I am quite a lot, actually, I'm afraid. It's very, very shocking news, isn't it? And hopefully won't come to fruition. I think we had the pleasure, as John and I had the pleasure at our recent GridServe conference to hear from one of the authors of the IPCC report, the latest reports, and the information was absolutely terrifying. You know, statistical scientific information demonstrating that we have to make changes in every walk of life in every industry across the globe now. So anything like this is frankly statistical nonsense. It's crazy, and it's the wit of the drive of the oil companies and the automotive OEMs to try and keep making money in areas where they make money. And that needs to stop. You know, we have to change.
You're right, Sam. And can we just say that you were not the last in the room, because here he is, the one, the only van man, Paul Kirby. Hello, mate. How are you?
Never in a van, though, is he?
No,
I'm not in a van. I've just been in one, but now I'm at a charge point, getting a top up on the way to where I need to be.
Perfect timing.
Oh
no, that is your seat. I was confused with the mirrored video there.
All right.
How is perfect timing 5 minutes late? Just out of interest.
Kettle black, Mr. Clark. You were like
Indeed.
2 minutes.
Now,
Yeah.
You didn't have to say that. Why did you stitch me up? There's no
Children.
need.
My
I
job.
heard you come on. I heard you come on. I know that you were late, as usual. It's always a little bit tight on Friday.
Yeah, but I didn't say it was perfect timing.
afterwards.
I didn't say it
Now
was
then.
perfect timing, did I? Hi, I'm 5 minutes late. Perfect timing.
I didn't
Mr.
say
Kirby.
perfect timing.
let's talk about the news. We're just chatting
yes.
through the 2035 ban on petrol and diesel, and Germany and a number of other countries are also pushing back and demanding that perhaps we use synthetic fuels, efuels, which are still going to be harmful. But I get the feeling it's supporting their own internal combustion engine manufacturing propositions that they have. It's not good, is it?
It's not ideal, John. It's not ideal, especially as they haven't sussed out whether the NOx is higher, the NOx and SOx. They know that the CO2 is lower. They're not sure about the NOx and SOx. So we need to be very much aware of all of the measures, not just some.
I've got to say, I admire the French. When they don't like it, they just get out on the street and go, "Rah, we're not having this. When are we going to start?" Anyway, right, let's move on. The efficiency of different electric vehicles is being prioritised by fleets due to increases in charging costs, according to the Association of Fleet Professionals. That may not sound surprising, but there's a kicker. Paul Hollick, chair at the AFP, has labelled the gaps between the most and least efficient EVs as striking, highlighting how fleet managers were increasingly swapping information on which vehicles were delivering the best figures in real-world conditions. And this is fabulous, because all of the theory, all of the lab tests, all of the WLTP counts for nothing. We want to hear from the front line. So if you've got stories around EVs and what's performing, what's not performing in terms of range, let us know, drop it in the comments. Paul went on to explain when EVs started arriving on fleets, fueling them cost buttons. So there was relatively little attention paid to which had the best miles per kilowatt hour. Increasingly, fleets are taking a lot of notice about which EVs are the most efficient, and they're spending time analysing which fall within reasonable parameters and which don't, in exactly the same way as we have done with internal combustion engines for many years. Now, energy efficiency is key. We all talk about miles per gallon in petrol and diesel. We should be talking about miles per kilowatt hour, but we're not, and we're beginning to do this. Paul, your experience in the van world, is this a big thing? I mean, I know you talk about 2.5 miles per kilowatt hour in vans.
Absolutely. I think it's essential. We should never lose sight of the fact that efficiency is critical, because the difference is, 10, 20%. Well, that's 10, 20% on the bottom line. And if you're spending £1 million a year on fuel, that's a couple of £100,000. So these are not small numbers that we're talking about. It's not just a little bit of a percentage or a half of this or that. It's a lot of money, and people need to focus on it and be aware of it. And the most efficient vehicles will win out in the end.
And driver behaviour presumably plays a part in this as well, and how heavy your right foot is, because that still matters. Let's ask our two Tesla drivers, the Tesla girl herself, Sarah Sloman. What do you achieve per kilowatt hour in your Tesla, Sarah, as an average?
Is terrible. It is terrible. 4.5 to 5.5 miles per kilowatt hour out of the e-Niro, and I get more like 2.5 to 3 on a good day out of the Tesla. And I was actually going to say that because a lot of people are buying Polestars and Teslas or leasing as part of their kind of business world, and I think they're going to be a little disappointed that we were talking about the other day. Those real world claims are slightly different, but it is just driver behaviour at the end of the day. However, it's also a lovely piece of technology that I quite like to enjoy. So, I'm accepting of my low miles per kilowatt hour and just plan for it.
And Sam, you like to win a race, so we've got 2.5. And how many miles per kilowatt hour do you make?
Mine's a bit better than Sarah's, but I obviously drive more efficiently. Obviously.
Obviously.
That's not hard. But yeah, I mean, I think obviously I'm very aware of my miles per kilowatt hour, but at the same time, I really only ever focus on my range, and I typically have around 300 miles, give or take, and that's kind of my yardstick. Which I think most people probably relate to, although I'd still agree that miles per kilowatt hour should be something that we push through in the same way that people recognise that relative to miles per gallon. But one thing that no one's mentioned yet, and I think is also very important about efficiency, is not just about how efficient the vehicle is, but how efficient it is at charging. because it's not just about how much energy you're consuming, but how long it takes you to go and charge and be on your way again. So an example being my Tesla can charge at 250 kilowatts theoretically, whereas an Audi e-tron can get nowhere near that. However, the Audi e-tron will always charge faster than me because its charging curve can retain that high level of efficiency on charging much longer. So the amount of time that it takes to charge an e-tron is much less than it takes me to charge my Tesla, because it can take a lot more energy more quickly, which means theoretically that person's back on the road doing their day job much more quickly, which especially in the commercial van world, every second counts, let alone every minute. So there's other metrics there over and above how efficient the vehicle is. It's how quickly it can charge is also another factor, and how much time it takes you to charge are other factors which are also really important.
I get your point entirely about how the vehicle works, but it's about the wastage. I'm spending so much more on charging for my Tesla than I ever was on the e-Niro, because I'm useless at getting efficient miles. And I think a lot of new entrants aren't going to be mindful of the sort of eco-driving methods, and so they're probably going to put their foot down. They're probably going to realise that their calculations are a little off. So the more we can tell people to expect a reasonable number, the better I think it's going to be for that bottom line. Like Paul was saying, it's about efficiency versus money for the cost of refueling.
And if you go into the commercial vehicle world, what you want to do is maximize the range of the vehicle so that you don't have to charge in the public domain. Charging in the public domain will never work for vans as a mainstay of what they do, because it will be cost prohibitive. And until the price gets to a sensible price, you cannot operate a business using public charging costs.
Okay, but you just contradicted yourself by saying it will never happen, and then if the prices come down, it will. So
well, no,
so it will happen. It will happen.
It won't happen whilst the price difference is as it is.
Yeah, I guess, Sarah, on my point, it was not just about the value of the energy you're putting in, but also the time it takes you to charge.
And time is
valuable.
Sure.
Time is money too, right? So I know my old business, I used to measure by the second how long it took between drops of my delivery drivers, by the second. That's how important it became to me in terms of efficiency of time and what that actually manifests itself in money. So I'm just adding that extra variable in there in terms of time is money, literally, when it comes to people sat down charging and waiting for vehicles to charge.
Point absolutely well made. I was doing the personal driver piece about the fact it costs me a lot more to drive my Tesla than it cost me to drive my e-tron.
I actually have this suspicion that Sam has been to the Boris Johnson School of Answering Questions, because when asked how many miles per kilowatt hour does he get from his Tesla, we got 397 words as measured by AI, and not one of them was the number for miles per kilowatt hour. Shall we try that one again, Sam?
I think we're at about 3.2.
Thank you. And Sam is the winner. Interesting point from Kate Tyrrell just coming in the chat. I'd like to think that we've made enough of an inroad with EVs that they can still have an impact, and we must make sure that we all are aware of the IPCC report, the damning report about the preventative action on EV adoption that is going on, and we have to stop. We have to stop what Germany and other countries are doing, because that is criminal. It is tantamount to knowingly killing people, continuing to use fuels that discharge the rubbish that they do. Shall we move on? Now then, Tesco. Let's move from killing people to Tesco. Tesco has reached an electric vehicle charging milestone with its Kirkwall Superstore. Now, who knows where Kirkwall is?
Leeds, isn't it?
Pig. Oh, yeah. It's not in Leeds.
Oh.
It's in Kirkwall.
Oh, good grief. It will come out in the story. Kirkwall Superstore has become the 600th store in the UK to have the EV charging points installed. Since Tesco, Volkswagen and Podpoint launched the network in 2019, the charging points have provided 43,218 kilowatt hours of energy to date, enough to power more than 4,000 homes for a whole day. The installation at the store on the remote Scottish island of Orkney.
He said, is it in Scotland? At least twice.
I'm sorry, Woman of the Year, we couldn't hear you. Your microphone wasn't working. It's the culmination of a programme which has seen 2,500 EV charging bays installed at 600 Tesco stores across the UK and Northern Ireland. Now then, it says in this press release, with all the electricity used to charge cars generated from renewable sources. I have to confess, I'm not sure that's right. Anybody know? Hit me up. Do we know that all of the Tesco stores are using renewables? I can tell you for a fact that my local Tesco has no renewable generation facility on site.
No, but that's
Like-
often, I'm really glad you asked that, Don, because that annoys me a lot of the time. It's really hard to unpick, and I'm just going to be brave and maybe look thick. But a lot of the time people say it's renewable, but what they actually mean is that they're procuring it and they're sleeving it from elsewhere. It's got nothing to do with the on-site generation whatsoever. We know this. But
Precisely.
being able to drive around and say, like, well, I'm using, I think the big question for me in that piece is Pod Point entirely renewable? I don't know the answer. I really don't know if Pod Point uses renewable energy or not. If they do, they need to market it a little wider. And the same with Tesla. I don't know if Tesla is renewable. I also doubt it. So it stresses me out that I'm in that camp of not knowing where my energy comes from, despite my best efforts. The house, Scottish Power, but I don't charge at home. So confusing.
Just going to say, huge risk if they haven't asked that question internally of themselves and put it to the test. So, if anybody can disprove it, then, they should have thought of their own thing. Every little bit of testing helps, but, they should know. So I would imagine, unless they've done the Carlsberg, probably it's correct.
Every little helps. That's excellent branding hiding in your sentence. Every little helps. Oh, I love it.
And Sam, do we know any charge point operators that you do use renewable energy at all?
Yeah, quite a few. So some of them generate their own as well through huge solar farms. Yeah. I'm trying to think of one.
No.
Are you thinking of Mer, considering they do utilise entirely renewable energy from Europe's largest renewable energy provider, Statkraft?
No.
Oh, you meant
never heard of them.
Oh, yeah, Grid 7.
Yeah.
Anyway, wireless charging of electric vehicles at up to 500 kilowatts could be possible following the development of new technology in Sweden. I knew you'd love this bit, Sam. Researchers at Chalmers University of Technology have pushed inductive power transfer technology further to enable high-powered battery charging that is ready to be presented to the fleet industry. The initial study focused on using the technology for charging electric urban ferries by Yujing Liu, Professor of Electric Power Engineering at the Department for Electrical Engineering at Chalmers, said, "The electric trucks of the future, there is a potential application. The wireless charger uses a new type of silicon carbide semiconductor and a newly developed copper wire that is as thin as a human hair." Ding! These two factors make transmitting high power through air, not hair, a realistic proposition. Charging power of 150 kilowatts to 500 kilowatts are possible with no physical connection between the vehicle and the charger. However, if Tiddles walks between the two of them, this makes charging at a depot, for example, more straightforward and removes the need for a heavy charging cable. You said a key factor is that we now have access to high-powered semiconductors based on silicon carbide. Now, this is interesting technology. Do we think it's going to happen? Induction charging's been around for a decade in some forms in Mission E, Formula E, when it first started with ABB. Is it really going to catch on, Paul? What do you think for commercial vehicles?
Of course, and I mean, assuming it can work, right? So we should be absolutely embracing the opportunity to learn from the tests that are going to go on in the UK, certainly for trucks with both the pantograph and induction charging on the motorways. So we've already seen an exercise in Nottingham where taxis are charging as they rest, which is wireless charging. So look, we've got to believe that technology and innovation can sort these problems out over time. Might not be there today, and there might be challenges today, but I think get it out there, let's learn from it, and let's make it work for the commercial vehicles of the UK and the whole of the world, really.
I saw Sam bury his head in his face. His head in his hand.
Sam's a Neanderthal that believes that nothing ever can develop beyond where it is today.
But we love him anyway. Sam, your thoughts?
My thoughts, as always, I'm afraid I disagree with Paul to a certain extent. I mean, the induction charging has its place. A lot of things have their place, and I think that in the bus network is probably quite good. Taxis, it doesn't really work because the vehicles move around too much. Bear in mind, the thing that's never mentioned, Paul, is the cost. You say it's great, let's do it, let's try it, it's innovation. Someone has to pay for it. This is incredibly expensive infrastructure, incredibly expensive. When a powered cable is a fraction of the cost. So I think, like many of these innovations, it's great to see, and it definitely has its place, and it will have applications in the wider industry. But in the commercial sector, I can't see anything other than buses really ever being a viable option. And pantographs, again, tremendously expensive, hugely expensive. And then all of the automotive OEMs have to adopt a certain universality on their technology, which is going to cost billions of pounds and take decades to do. We don't have billions of pounds, and we don't have decades to fix the climate change. We've got to use innovation that's available today. So this is great. I'm not saying we shouldn't push it forward, but at the same time, we've got to focus on the things that really matter, and that's climate change and battery electric vehicles and things that we know of today is what we really, really need to apply.
Let me pick that up, Sam, because I think, Sarah, I'd like to come and have a chat with you about the wider piece. Surely any technology that reduces the emissions in the air, improves air quality, and it has an impact on climate change, has a place in the mix, and we need to test them. And we need those sense checks that Sam rightly talks about of cost. And surely the market will sort that out. There was the cost of a charger many years ago, you know, for a 50 kilowatt charger was costing you 50, 60, 70,000 pounds. It doesn't anymore. Economies of scale kick in, prices drop. Surely we've got a duty to at least explore these things.
Yeah, I think it's a method of timing as well. Like if you're a country that hasn't yet developed your infrastructure, then why not leapfrog aging technology that we've decided doesn't work so well anymore? And I've seen pantograph in action with buses, which are charging and going around again on their 110-mile daily trip within 40 minutes, which is fantastic. And the drivers love them, so they don't have to do anything. Comes down, clips onto the vehicle, they go and have their food or break or whatever they need to do. So I think that's one use case. But I think with the wireless charging, it seems really sort of futuristic, and the main objections are tiddles, which I actually thought was a myth. I thought that got debunked with a squirrel anyway. And then the second one was that you have to retrofit for that, but not if you're creating it with something in mind, like a purpose-built depot. So again, everything in its right place. But yeah, I do worry about the distraction with these things. I'd like us to focus and deliver with what we know will work for our own country and our own pressures and our own finances. But other countries, knock yourself out. I think we saw a good example in the chat from USA or Canada from someone. So thank you for that. But yeah, I'd say right place, right time, right investment. And you say use the innovation that's available today. They were all started 10 years ago. So, you know, it's just something that changes over time.
Available to be deployed today might be better. It's interesting. In the chat, Mike Fisher says wireless charging makes sense. Jamie Fretwell says, I agree with Sam. Pantograph is a waste of time for trucks. So we've all got our own special thoughts and views. And do you know what? That's why I love the EV Cafe community. Love.
And someone look up Tiddles the squirrel.
Oh yeah, we can see about
the squirrel's got fried.
It's an utter myth. It doesn't happen. Volvo's been working on this technology for years. Tiddles is safe. Anyway, electric vehicle drivers are potentially missing out on savings worth hundreds of pounds by not switching to specialist home charging tariffs, research suggests. MENA, love a bit of MENA, found that the average pence per kilowatt hour cost for charging at home was marginally lower than the average overall home energy cost. So ordinarily, you'd pay 34 pence per kilowatt hour for electricity at home. The average home charge was 30 pence per kilowatt hour because people are plugging in using special tariffs. However, life gets complicated. If you look at the different home tariffs there are for energy, MENA found that there were 800 different tariffs. And it's no wonder that people get confused. That said, there are ways of finding out about good energy tariffs for your charging, aren't there, Sarah?
Yes, and I've also been quite interested to watch Right Charge go from strength to strength, because you basically type in and they matchmake you with a charger and a tariff. So yeah, I think there's good consumer choice out there at the moment. It's good, but I think choice is better. I tried to switch because mine cost me a fortune, and I'm not eligible to switch. That's super irritating. Just trying to be a good homeowner rather than an EV charger.
Yeah, Paul, you're getting undressed for something. Not quite sure what.
I'm getting warm. I'm in my car. You know.
Now then, are you heating the whole car or just the seat?
I'm not heating anything. You know, it's absolutely fine.
Just a hot body.
Coming out of there.
No?
I said there's a bit coming out of here.
Final thoughts for the weekend. We're all meeting up tomorrow in Brighton. Very exciting. So we have our, what we call the pot washers meeting, because essentially we're all just pot washers who just clean stuff. Air, the climate, whatever, and pots. So we're all getting together to have a sort of strategic chat about what we're doing, where we're going, and how we do it. If you've got any thoughts about what we do, what's working, what's a bit pants, do let us know. hello@evcafe.org. If you've got any clean transport, PR or news stories. Sarah, big weekend, Brighton, glow balls, need I say more, and a chili pickle.
And I'm going in the sea.
Golly.
And I'll come with you.
Oh, good golly. Sam, you've not been well, so we're really looking forward to seeing you. Ed, your thoughts? Your thoughts for the weekend? You looking forward to it?
Yeah, weather looks good. So it's going to be a lovely time to meet you all in the flesh again for once. And
you bring your blankie with you, little blankie there.
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah, another cuddly toy.
Now then, whilst we're thinking about it, chuck in the comments. What are you up to this weekend? Whilst I read this last bit, which is always a bit of fun, and very often I make an ass of it. So here we go. Are you ready, Paul? Go on.
Go on.
No, just music.
Go.
Okay. Well, thank you for today. Until next Friday, it's goodbye from me, it's goodbye from them. And this has been an EV Cafe production brought to you this week by My Energy, the complete home renewables ecosystem and the best way to charge your car at home. Other sustainability news services are available, but this is just fun. The EV Cafe News is regulated by Big Stewart, Interval Spike from My Energy, Tuck from the AA, installed by EV Civils, monitored by Geotab, and inspired or even insured by Churchill. We are the EV Cafe, supporting the transition to clean transport. Until next Friday, thank you for coming, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
I love
You
the
can talk
music.
now, Paul.
Yeah, Paul, don't crash the